I have a great burden for this. You may have noticed in my little biography that Charles gave that I was pastoring once in Las Vegas, Nevada. What a great place to pastor. I was a student at Andrews University at the time, and I'd come from New Guinea after 10 years of mission service. I had very little money, so I eventually ran out of money. I had 3 children in the local elementary school as well. And so I decided to take a job in North America. I got 6 calls all at once. So I thought I'll go and visit these places and check it out. And one of these invitations was to Las Vegas, Nevada. So Sabbath morning, I slipped out to Las Vegas. Didn't tell anybody I was coming. Nobody knew that I was a pastor. I just turned up at church on Sabbath morning. And the elder of the church was standing at the door greeting people. What a mismatch of gifts that was. Anyway, I said good morning, and he said good morning, and he said to me, "Are you an Australian?" I said, "Yes, I am." And no greeting of any kind. Do you know what he says to me? "Does your wife wear a wedding band?" That's my welcome to the Adventist church. He's never met me. I said, "As a matter of fact, she does. In my country, you're not married without one." I said, "Does your wife wear one?" Keeping a straight face. He said, "Absolutely not." I said, "But the bigger test would be if you visited my country and you checked into a motel with a woman who was not wearing a wedding band. You know what everyone would think? You've brought your mistress with you. Would she put one on in order to avoid that kind of speculation?" I said, "If you can answer that, then I'll listen to what you have to say. If you can't, I don't want to hear it." And I walked into the church saying to myself, I'd have to have rocks in my head to come to a church like this to pastor. So you all know now I have rocks in my head. One of the first things I decided to do was to get ministry going on the Strip. The church was like an exclusive country club. They wanted nothing to do with the Strip. So I got bold and decided to take our young people out on the Strip at midnight. And we'd start sharing the good news with junkies, alcoholics, gamblers, prostitutes. They were all there. And 2 o'clock one morning she came along, 27 years of age, wearing the most mini of mini skirts I've ever seen. And she had a pager here, and she proudly told us that she was on call to the biggest casinos. She was a prostitute. One of the young men in our group was bold enough to share the good news with this young lady, and she started weeping. We sat down on the curb on the main strip there, and he led her to Christ. A couple of weeks later, she asked if she could come to church. I said, "Well, of course you can come to church. We'd love to have you, but do you think you could lengthen the..." We have some elderly people in our congregation, and some of them might literally have cardiac arrest. She said, "Okay." She lengthened it about 1 inch, I'd say. Sabbath morning, I'm up starting the sermon, and she comes to the doorway. The church is packed, 300 or 400 people there. And she waves to me from the door. I'll never forget it. And the only seat was right down the front. With her hands in the air, she walked down the center aisle of our church. And her lips were moving, just like your lips were moving before. Her lips were moving. I'm not making a parallel here. Only the lips. Her lips were moving. And as I looked at her lips, you know what she was saying? "Thank you, God, for taking me out of there and bringing me in here." And the saints turned to one another and said, What's she? Oh, you've got it. My goodness, you're good. What's she doing here? And as I was shaking hands at the end of church, one of the saints came up to me and said, you know, Elder Liversidge, we have a certain reputation to maintain. And I said, and you're doing a very good job of maintaining it. It's such a narrow, legalistic thing. And the one person in the church who was praising God was a young woman from the pits of sin. I had the privilege of baptizing that young lady. We made her the leader of our strip ministry. She met a young man on the strip. 2 years later, I had the privilege of marrying the two of them. And they were together in ministry. I'll never forget that. The one person praising God on Sabbath morning was somebody who came out of the most ungodly background, and the grace of God fell upon her.